No, on our,
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna share my screen. Just a quick reminder, if you make sure your mics are muted. If you're in the same room with somebody and you're on two different computers, you will get the possibility for feedback is there. The way you eliminate that is by not only muting both computers or muting one, but turning the volume off, because what's happening is it's getting double feedback. So that's possible. What we're going to do right now is we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk about our next module. While I'm doing that, does anybody have anything they want to share about last week's module?
I didn't make it that far.
So that's okay. That is okay. What did you work on?
I got all the way to like the page number 33.
Okay, that's good.
And on the part 8 where you have the options to do like complete your thing, I'm actually gonna I have a therapist appointment, so I'm gonna do that today. So I just asked him about his job.
Yeah, if you just ask him about his job, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, ask him about, just follow those questions and then write down that information. So how have you been doing so far with it? Do you feel it's pretty good?
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Like I actually like I use all these tools every day because I have anxiety disorder. So like every little task that is easy for like my husband is very hard for me. So I'm constantly like trying to explain myself. So a lot of these tools I use, and the one that I decided to do was the journaling, because I hate to journal. So it was like pretty much do the most uncomfortablest one that I don't want to do, you know? So and it was crazy because when I kept watching the video, it was like, it's good to pick the one that you don't want to do. So like with my recovery, that's what I found. The only way that I'm going to grow is to do what I don't want to do, you know? And I'm just like lazy or think about it too much, or, you know, and so like the stress stuff really helped because I was kind of freaking out about it. But I was like, okay, I'm just gonna dive right into it and see where it takes me. And like it helps so much, like with the coping. And like by the time I was done doing all the like the guided meditation and the, you know, the visualization and stuff, like my stress went from like an 8 all the way down to like a 4. So it like helped me a lot. And it was like I always self-care, but doing this thing made me realize that I haven't been doing self-care. Like I haven't been taking care of myself. So this was really good. Like this came at a time in my life when like I pretty much prayed for this. Like I need like more help, because how am I going to help other people? Like, you know, I help people on the support groups on Facebook and just kind of give like advice here and there with the tools um that I've like come to learn. So that's something that I'm seeing. So I actually have my volunteer idea, like what I want to do. And and I've been like looking up other ideas for other people, like what Cassandra want to do, and like Shay too, because I have a lot of ideas for those too. So yes, it's been great. I really enjoy it.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. I think one of the best things that I really enjoy about this program, before we start talking about module 3, is that it really, you know, a lot of people, we all have good ideas. There's ways that we want to, you know, help people, especially when we've come so far in a certain aspect of our life. We kind of want to get to this place. We get to this place where we want to give back. This
Mhm.
program really helps you refine and understand how to do that, how to start it, who to connect with, you know, the beginning, the middle, implementation, and then to close it up. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's exactly, I feel, what this program is designed to do.
Mhm.
If you guys notice, we do have a Facebook page, a group page. Woohoo! So please feel free to comment on there. If you want to start a dialogue, a topic conversation. So Flo, if there's information you want to share that you found out about different projects and ideas,
Mhm.
please post that. And let's get
Okay,
those
awesome.
conversations and dialogues started.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, you guys, let's move on. Thank you for sharing. Well, does anybody else have anything they want to share? Don't want to cut that off, because conversation is important.
So in module 2, did anybody do that? I think it was module 2, that characteristic.org thing.
Mm-mm. No.
I went online and I did that. That was really interesting. It told me what my 5 strengths were. And I was like, oh, okay. I agree with that. The signature strengths. So just wanted to see if anybody else is that for yet.
Mm-mm.
What was your what is it called? What was your type? What was it called?
All right, so we've just got some feedback going on. So somebody that has 2 computers in a room, one of you gonna need to turn off the volume completely. All right. Okay. That was a good question, Shay. So what was your type, Sandy?
Well, it said so it gives you 5 signature strengths. So the first one for me was humility, gratitude, hope, kindness, and humor. So I was like, oh yeah, I agree with that. And then it tells you what your middle strengths are, and then it tells you what your weak strengths are. Let's see, is that what it's called? Lesser strengths. So that was really interesting.
Where was that at, Sandy?
It's on that via character.org. I think is that what it's called? VIA character.org. It was on one of those videos.
Mm.
The second module was kind of hard for me.
So Katie posted it in the chat, and really quick, I don't know what is up with my laptop today, but it's not letting me share the workbook. So I'm asking Claire to see if she could share that. So yes, thank you guys for your patience. And thank you for the conversations that we're willing to engage in. Really quick, while we're working on that, one thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was the journaling. Sometimes journaling can be a little bit scary because we look at journaling in a specific way, but it's really important that journaling can look many ways. It doesn't have to just be writing down those feelings and then being able to look at them again, having them stored in a notebook. Journaling can look any way you want to. So I've seen different types of journaling. It reminds me of like poetry writing. Somebody one time in a workshop that I had taken had done their journaling. They drew lines into a picture, how they were feeling. And then on the lines, they wrote their feelings. And so that was how they did their journaling. I like to do my journaling because I don't want to have to go back and read what I wrote. So what I do with my journaling is I actually will just find a piece of paper and just start writing down my feelings, just because it's all about getting what's inside of our heads out and putting it on paper. because when we're able to take things out of our thought processes, because in our brains are so beautiful and so brilliant, they can make problems into something bigger. So taking them out and actually putting them down on paper is very powerful. But when I do my journaling, what I do is I just start writing how I'm feeling. Just writing. I'm not reading it. I'm just putting it out there. And then when I filled up whatever page I've used, I go back to the top and I rewrite over top of it. And then I rewrite over top of it. Or I'll turn it to the side and I'll write on that, and I'll write on this, and I'll write on different things. So that's how I do my journaling. So when we look at a lot of these concepts, just remember that there is more than one way to do it. And sometimes we need to challenge those beliefs that we have that it's only supposed to look a certain way. So on that note, all right. Thank you, Claire, for bringing that up. So we are on module 3, occupational health. How many of you guys have had an opportunity to start on the occupational health yet?
That is negative.
Okay, and that's totally fine.
I'm getting there though.
Yes, we're all going to get there, right? So Claire, if we can just go ahead and move up. So as you can see, Claire she says she's just the person to take care of technical difficulties. She is more than just the person. She's an amazing part of our team. All right, so occupational health part 1. So this occupational health module will cover many different aspects of occupational health, including deriving satisfaction from work and understanding occupational risks and benefits. One thing I want you guys to think about is how happy are you with the work that you do? That is so key. Sometimes we get stuck in jobs that we feel we're fully not invested in, that our hearts are not there. I think it's really important that when we go to work, we do the work that we love. And if we've lost the love for the work that we have, then we kind of need to stop and reassess that. So after reviewing the module introduction, continue to understand occupational risk and benefits page, review the graph and read the articles that are referenced, using this page to write down your notes. So obviously our workbook is, as we all know, is to help us work through these modules. And so I admit I'm not even on occupational health yet. So if anybody is on this module, share your experiences. But if you're not, that's totally fine because we're still going to review it. All right. So after reviewing the content on this page, define occupational wellness. Just a quick note. Remember what you put in this workbook. This is totally your perception on what you are reading. There is no right, you're wrong, you're right. This is just your perception, right? So define occupational wellness. How is occupational wellness related to your own life? Now, this is a good topic to talk about. If you're not happy in your job, how does that carry over to home or your everyday life? Anybody want to share?
I'm like irritated.
What was the question again?
If you're not necessarily happy or have occupational wellness in your position and in your job, how does that carry over into other parts of your life?
I feel like it would make you miserable
Mm-hmm.
because like the weight of your job and how much you rely on, the pay. Say
Yeah.
if you relied on the pay and then you were just in constant panic of like, hey, I'm gonna lose my job, or like I feel like for some reason like it would involve like family members. Maybe you would get upset quickly at certain members of your family or something like that. I would say that's all I have to say about that part.
That's a really good point, because I know there was a time with one of my jobs that I've had in my past when I would wake up in the morning and I'm thinking, oh, okay, here we go, another day. And it wasn't waking up in the morning like, all right, what am I going to do today at my job? How am I going to do this or how am I going to do that? It became this like, oh, all right, here we go. Make it through another day, making that dollar to pay what I need to pay. And it's interesting when we have that type of mentality, how it really carries over into the work that we do. But it also, like Shay mentioned, it carries over into our interactions with our families. Because if you've had a rough day at work, let's say communication isn't very well between you and your advisor or your supervisor, or, you know, there's all these other things that are playing into it, because everybody brings their, you know, what's going on with home into work. And some of those feelings and emotions can transcend those work boundaries, and they become part of the way you interact with staff. And so if we're having a rough day at work because we're having a rough day with coworkers, supervisors, or other things, and then when we come home and we have to meet the demands of home, our patience, our coping, all of that's going to be not where it needs to be. And so the dynamic from home can become, you know, very non-helpful too, right? And so what does that do? That puts us in a place of stress, that puts us in a place of anxiety. And so we find no rest. And so it's important to make sure that we're aware of the impacts that our occupation actually has on us. But we also know that that comes down to the dynamic of a whole lot of people, right? We only have control over ourselves. We only have control over how we interact or react or respond to those who are around us. But we need to make sure that we're still good. So all these coping skills that we've learned so far, and especially in the emotional health and the spiritual health, are actually going to help us within this occupational wellness. So if we look at this and we start looking at the way we work within our communities, are our community members all pleasant all the time? Are they happy all the time with the services that we may offer, or that the way our programs work? Not always, right? But we still need to make sure that we're in a good place to be able to handle those situations. Any other comments? Shay, thank you for that comment. All right, so on this last part, how would you rate your current occupational wellness? Now, when you do this, I really want you to really look at it. We're grateful to have jobs right now, especially with what's going on, right? We're grateful that, you know, to be able to have and do the things that we need to do to be able to provide for our families. But I really want you to look at that occupational wellness. I really want you to look at that. How are you really feeling? And be honest with that with yourself, because that's going to help you. Remember, we talked about how this is all about balance. That's going to help you be able to find that balance. Now, if you do not have a job, but there are still things that you are actively passionate about and you're actively engaged with, even though you may not be getting paid for that, that is still part of an occupation, right? It's a passion. It's something you love to do, and it's something you're actively involved in. So you can still ask those questions in regards to that. All right, Claire, can we move to the next page, please? All right. Do you guys like TED Talks? I love TED Talks. TED Talks are good. I like them because I have a very short attention span. They're very quick and to the point. You know, they get you what you need. So it's going to review some of the less obvious benefits of work, as well as how to develop an occupational wellness plan. Wellness plans are really important to have. We can have a plan for a lot of different things. Sometimes when we start looking at planning, I know for me, it used to be like, and I will always share my personal experiences. I have no problem with that because I used to be a big old mess. But when I would look at planning, my first thing was like, oh, I don't want to plan. I'm not a planner. I don't need to do that. Then I realized that planning helps you follow through with what it is you're wanting to achieve. So what do you think are the benefits that come from work? You know about the physical benefits, you know, like in regards to like our social economic benefits, right? The pay, health benefits, but what is that all work is really all about? Let's hear your guys' thoughts. Now, don't worry, you're not, I know your boss is sitting in on this. Don't worry about, Sandy is totally not being here as your employer right now. She's being here as a participant. So what are some of your thoughts about the benefits of working?
I have a comment, Michelle. Well, I learn new things at my job every day.
Say that again. You were kind of breaking up.
So I was just saying that I learn new things. So that's what I picked up from going to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's important, right? We don't want to become stagnant. Learning something new is always good. Thank you. What's something else?
And
Uh,
so Katie typed in the chat box, not gonna lie, I like being paid.
You know what? Isn't that the truth? Because you're not having to worry about where the next, how you're going to make the money to pay the next bill or to put food on the table. So that is a benefit. But I think work has the potential to be so much more than that, especially in the field that a lot of you guys are in. You know, you guys are in a field where you're working with the community, and the kickback from that is helping another person, seeing the appreciation. Now, I know a lot of, especially Sandy's employees, I know firsthand that you guys, the community members, just connect with you, you know, and there's this level of appreciation for the stuff that you've done for them. And so the money is good, but that connection with your community is very rewarding. I know with the work that I do, there's nothing more rewarding than hearing somebody say thank you. It's not necessarily about, oh, I saved somebody, or I did this, or I did that. It's about making an impact somehow, even if it's the smallest of impact. So that when we have that feeling of you know, connection with our communities, we feel good about our positions. But then the problems start to happen when usually problems will occur not when we're working out with the communities, but inner office conflicts. That's where a lot of stress happens. So we can have an occupational wellness plan when it comes to that. It's almost like a safety plan. So it's like, how do I not snap at somebody today because they're irritating me? But then I have to ask myself, why is it irritating me? Well, maybe because I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that, or I didn't sleep well last night, or I'm worried about this. So that wellness plan really comes back down to us. We have no control over anybody else within our work environment, but we do have control over how we react, respond, and cope with what's going on.
That's what I got out of the first module, was just that, like how to deal with outside things that like we have no control over, and how to categorize it and healthily work through it, and to actually like expand my boundaries of coping skills too, that there is more than just what I've been doing. And one thing like with the occupational thing, because I just stay home. Well, I can't say I'm just a homemaker, because I'm like a chef, a barista, you know, a maid, caretaker, you know, I'm all these things. But like I do, you know, do volunteer work for Addict to Athlete. Like it isn't because I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it. It's because our coach, he's like, oh no, I got people, they'll do it. So it's like, oh okay, yeah, I'll do it. And like for me, what I found out is just showing up, is just being there, like your presence, being there at a place where other people probably have insecurities, you know, and come to find out that like I'm the only one that didn't want to be there, but I came, you know. So it's always empowering for others to know that, you know, you can push past your comfort zones and actually find, you know, that connection when it comes to, you know, work, or, you know, like with me, volunteer work is seeing that appreciation on people's face, that people do care and they don't want nothing in return, you know.
And I really like how you pointed out, it's not that you're just a homemaker. sometimes, and that's one of the things I like with this program. This is it's going to help us do too. It's going to help us break those what we define as, an occupation. Like we're breaking those definitions of what journaling looks like. People do a lot of work when you're at home. There is not, it's not like you said, you're a chef, you're a cook, you're a homemaker, you do some repairs, you're an animal caretaker, you're all of these different things. And so I like how you brought that up. I really like that, because no job, as long as somebody is doing, and when I say job, I don't mean just a job that you're being paid for, but when you're doing anything, the work that you do, if you are doing the best possible, the best job that you possibly can, you are admirably working at something, right? Those people who bake things and sell them, that takes a lot of work and patience to bake something completely and then give it and sell it, the time to go out and sell, so these occupations, let's break those boundaries of what we think occupations look like. Occupations can be many different things. So thank you. Let's see. So learn, go ahead and keep on. Okay, connect. So think about the latent benefits of work that may not be apparent in your current work situation. Are there ways you can access those benefits through through other venues, volunteering, family responsibilities? How would assessing those additional benefits impact your overall health and wellness? So think about your job, and let's look at some of those benefits that may not be obviously, that you may not see, just when somebody asks you about what kind of work that you do. So like, for instance, a latent benefit of mine, or a benefit that is not so obviously seen as soon when I look at my job, is that I think it would be access to more education. So through my job, I have to learn more about substances, more about behaviors, and I have access to that because that's part of my job. I can do research, and I can do the research that I need to find out more about a substance or more about a behavior. When I'm at home, I'm going to be more worried about taking care of things at home, not necessarily being able to have the time to sit down and read some research or learn a new skill in regards to counseling or working with communities. And another one might be just connection with other tribes. That's a neat opportunity to be able to connect with other tribes. Do you guys have any examples that can pop into your brain? How many of you know what the word latent means, just out of curiosity? I had to look that up. I had an idea, but then I had to really look at that definition.
I would say mine would be like being a seamstress.
Wow, nice.
I like my career, I feel like, started from volunteering. So really I was like 33 and I didn't really know what like my heart's passion was. And then I started volunteering, and I was like, man, I would do this for the rest of my life, and I would even do it for free just because of how it made me feel, like how my soul felt when I would see other people talk about what was going on or feel different things or just be able to express what was inside of them. And I was like, I would literally do this for free for the rest of my life. And I remember saying that for like over a year, and now it's my career and I get paid for it, which just blows my mind on a daily basis. So it really starts from that seed, like that tiny little seed of what fuels your passions.
Perfect. And that actually leads into our the occupational health part 3. So this section of the occupational health, thank you for sharing that, Ashante. This section of the occupational health module will review different methods to develop your career as well as workplace wellness options. So if we love the work that we're doing, we're going to want to develop that. We have the opportunity to go further in what we're doing. Kind of like Ashanti said, it started out with volunteer work, but it led into this passion that she had, led into this position that she has and what she's been able to create. So it's really important to have that passion, but it's also important to know that we can always move forward. We are not stuck in one place doing one thing. Don't ever feel that way. We're, you know, sometimes we allow ourselves to kind of go into this little hole and think that there's nothing more. When that happens, it's important to kind of step back and look at your job or look at what you're doing and find a way to reignite the passion that you have for that. You know, if it's to go a new direction, if it's to stay in the field that you're currently in, but you want to focus solely on a different area, you have the potential and the opportunity to be able to do that. Fortunately enough, I think a lot of us have employers or supervisors that are willing to support that and are willing to engage in that conversation with us. All right, so review the material on the curriculum page, include the link to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, use this page to record your notes. Now on this, with this module, there are 4 parts to it. If you notice they're a little bit smaller, it may take you a little more time to go through this, which is totally understandable and totally fine. Take your time, because I really want you guys to be able to get out of this what this program is intended to give you. After that, you're gonna, on the connection page on 51, on the connection part on page 51, research your workplace, campus, or volunteer organization. Do you have access to a wellness program through your affiliation with one of those organizations? If so, what is included in the wellness program? How could you improve your workplace wellness program? If your workplace, campus, or volunteer organization does not offer a wellness program, what could you do to start one? Now, when we're looking at wellness, remember wellness is it's a totality, right? If you're not getting enough sleep, how well are you going to work? If you're not eating the right foods and getting the right nutrients, the vitamins and minerals for your body to actually work properly, how well are you going to manage stress? One of the key things is also to look at are we functioning in a fight or flight mode? I think sometimes we feel that fight or flight only occurs when we're actually experiencing some sort of physical danger. But the body can be engaged into fight or flight when our thoughts, our emotions, our sense of self, any of that becomes challenged. Our brains will actually flip and go into a fight or flight mode. Surprisingly, it can happen very quickly and it can happen very often. So there's been a lot of research out there showing that a lot of people function in fight or flight mode all the time, which is not healthy, because fight or flight is designed for a survival, and certain chemicals and minerals and hormones are released during fight or flight. And if those things are just left circulating through the body can actually become toxic. So we need to make sure within our wellness plan, are we taking care of the total part of us? Physical exercise. Those who work at Painted Horse have the advantage of having a gym, right? It's a nice gym. So physical exercise, not only nutrition, but also, like we've talked about so far in this program, your emotional health and your spiritual health. So when you're coming up with some sort of wellness plan, remember to include all of those aspects, because it is not just about the job. There's a totality. You are a total person. You are more than just one part. So that balance is really important to find. And remember, with a wellness plan or a wellness program, be kind to yourself. Make sure whatever it is that you've identified to be a part of this plan is doable, and it's doable at the time you need it. When we develop safety plans or relapse prevention plans with some of the clientele I've had an opportunity to work with, one of the things I really pointed out and we really discussed was that when you are in a state of you need to implement a part of your wellness plan, it needs to be able to happen within the first 10 minutes, first 15 minutes. Not, okay, I'll take care of this when I get home. But it's like, no, what can you do now? Dr. Bo Washington, who has developed BWT, which is Bo Washington therapy, which is a cognitive behavior therapy, he talked about when we get stressed. So when I get angry, when I start feeling myself get into that place where I'm like triggered, one of the first things I notice is I clench my jaw. And so it's like, I've learned to realize when that happens, I need to give my body and my brain a reason for me to be clenching my jaw. And so one thing that helps is chewing gum. So if the moment I clench my jaw, I'm thinking, okay, I need to give my body a reason. Not that I'm angry or upset, but I'll put some gum in my mouth or taffy. Sugar-free taffy, Sandy. Oh, and sugar-free gum. But but then what happens is I'm rewiring my brain that this is not an anger response. This is I'm chewing gum. If your heart rate gets increased when you start getting frustrated about something, and I know those of you who do the exercise, when you do a burpee, that gets your heart rate going, right? Or when you do some squats, that can get your heart rate going. So when you start coming up with this wellness program, make sure there are things that you can do immediately, but it's about giving your brain another reason to fit for your body feeling the way that it is. I know that's kind of a deep and it can be a complicated thing, and we'll eventually explain that. But so make sure you're looking at the totality of your whole self, not just one small aspect. Let's see. So if we turn to
Michelle.
yes.
So I think that now that you're talking about stuff like that, it makes me think, oh, hey, we should maybe have some of those kind of classes in our program, like in the evening time, because I think a lot of the community would benefit from emotional and mental wellness sessions, because everybody pretty much knows about physical activity and spirituality, but I think a lot of people could benefit from those kind of classes. And actually the tribe has it's a wellness resolution, but it's tied to our program. And I thought that it was just for the employees to exercise for half an hour, either during lunch or at 4 o'clock. But, and I only had that section of the resolution. And then I think I don't remember who gave me the whole resolution. And then I found out that we were supposed to be teaching monthly classes to the employees. So that was interesting. So that's something that I want to work on, revising it, updating it. So just some thoughts.
Nice. Well, you always know I'm on board for mental health wellness. That's awesome. That is really cool. That's I think, and that's one of the things to remember too, is that when we start learning about the way we filter things through our thinking, what filters we look at, we can really see how those affect our reactions or our responses to our different situations. And so, that would be an amazing thing to be able to provide that type of education and learning. They're called coyote thoughts. You guys may have heard about those. All right, so on part 4, it's talking about reviewing balance, right? So we kind of talked about that already. It's about this totality. It's about all of us, the whole part of us, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self. It's about that balance. If we're focused more on one, we're more likely neglecting another part, and we need to have that balance. We need to have balance to be able to deal with everything that's going on. Let's see. So once again, TED Talks, write down your notes, write down the things that pop out. You don't have to write down everything, because remember, you're not being graded. You're not showing this. This is just for you to work to get the most out of each one of these modules. Let's see. Then answer the following questions about life balance. I know that when I'm not getting enough sleep, yeah, my temperament's a little bit high, and I'm driven by my fuel, my gasoline for the day is extremely strong coffee. But then again, right, if I'm drinking a bunch of coffee all day, even at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, how is that going to help me get the sleep that I need, that I started drinking a lot of coffee for? It just perpetuates the situation. So look at some balance. Look at those balance measurements. Look at the way your work life is being balanced, but also the way it's affecting our home life. You know, like I said, are you getting the sleep that you need? Are you getting, you know, now this is something that it doesn't bring out like directly, but one thing I want you guys to think about is we all have and need a level of connection and love, expression and receiving of love. So I want you guys to be aware of what your love languages are. Find out if those needs are also being met. That's really important. That's an important part of that emotional aspect. Let's see. So connect. What challenges have you found that make it difficult to achieve work-life balance? Sometimes with those of us who have young ones in our lives, teenagers, young guys, you know, and there's times when we have to leave work. And this is, we've all faced this challenge. Either it's been unintentional or it's been, I don't know, I don't want to say intentional, but how easy is it for you to leave your job to be able to go take care of family? Do you have to sit there and make that decision? Is it work or is it my family? You know, and those that can be very challenging. That can be a very challenging. If those are some things that you're faced with, how can you achieve some of that balance? How can you find the balance that you need? You know, are you spending more time working than you are with your home duties? Is it taking time away from other activities? So our work lives are important, but our home lives are important also our personal lives. So how can I say this in a very healthy way? It's important to take care of those things that are important. That's all I'm going to say about that. So look and see where your balances are. What steps can you take to improve your work-life balance despite those challenges? The other thing I really want to point out that I love about this whole program is it really helps you be solution focused. We can always point out all the things that are going to make life difficult or that are going to make the day difficult, but it's really important for us to start gearing our thoughts towards being solution focused. How can we solve this problem? Now, remember, when we're looking at solving problems, we're not looking at another person. It's like, okay, my problem would be totally solved if this person would just, you know, leave me alone. The reality comes down, it's like, okay, what am I going to do for myself to keep me healthy when I'm having to deal with this difficult situation or this difficult person? So remember, it's about how to help. It's about you. Don't put any of these, our happiness based on another person. It's about the way we manage those day-to-day challenges. So the second part of this, which we are not going to go over this week, is the volunteer project planning part 2. So we're not going to worry about going over that this week. We will go over that next week. Hopefully next week, this is my solution and my hopefulness. We won't have technical difficulties. Zoom won't keep on booting me out. But if it does, we'll just work with it, right? So any quick feedback or comments about today's quick review on our work health?
I feel like this whole entire occupational health is probably like, so far, apart from the emotional health, is probably one of the most I've got out of the module. is because the two TED Talks that you had to watch was very important, and understanding like work-life balance, and especially the second one. The second one kind of stood out to me. The second TED Talk was the most important takeaway I got from that was like the small things matter. Being balanced doesn't mean a dramatic uphill in your life. With the smallest investments in the right places, you can radically transform the quality of your relationships, life, and society. That's what he says at the end of the TED Talk. And that kind of stood out to me because, like, even though, because I think in his in his TED Talk also he kind of mentioned that he was busy and like he had all these things to do, but his child wanted to hang out with him, and so he took like just he's like, okay, let's just go and let's go get ice cream or something like that. And so it's just like normal. So he goes, gets ice cream with his kid, talks. I think they go to the park, and then after that, at the end of the day, the kid turns to the person that's speaking and says, like, "Dad, this is like the best day of my life." And so I think he asks his son, like, why? And and then I guess he thought about it internally, is that this little thing that he took the time out of his day to just do something normal, like not even having a thought to pertain to that situation, made the most, it gave him satisfaction it gave him more enlightenment to satisfy his son when he didn't even realize that he did. So I think the second TED Talk was the most important because, doing little things like that, like just like hanging out with somebody or watching a movie with somebody, you don't know that you're actually getting satisfaction yourself. You might ignore that feeling. So I thought that was the most, like, to me, I felt like that was the most, I don't know, the most I got out of the program. And the other TED Talk was pretty good too. And also to learn that I did read the 22 pager that was in this module. And I felt like the research that was done on people balancing work life was kind of interesting to me, because a lot of people around here don't talk about it, especially like the old, like kind of like not like kind of like the older generation. Like they don't really like to talk about much. But when they did the survey in Britain, I mean, not Britain, but in the UK, on these families and how they balanced out, working for a paycheck versus like, the men, that's what the men would always do because they would be like the breadwinners, and versus like, the women who are balancing out the home life, and seeing the relationships between the two was very interesting, and seeing how they connect and what the result of that was interesting. But I feel like the most, I feel like at the end of the study, to see that there was a certain group that was able to do both, kind of made me think, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm kind of losing my train of thought. It was interesting to see that. So I just wanted to share my feelings on that too. So yeah.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. And it's important. It's so important to realize too that, like, with that time that he took, I always remind people, I like to remind people, and I remind myself the same thing, is the moment I'm walk out of the office, I'm not getting paid. Don't spend your time doing work that you're not getting paid for. I know that sounds terrible, but at the moment you leave work, if you're not getting paid to do work, then don't do the work. Spend the time with your family. I know we have passion. We enjoy and love the things that we do. And sometimes we take everything with us when we leave because we're like, okay, I'm going to work at home working on this. But then what do? We may neglect those times that we need to be connecting with our family. And that's balance, leaving work at work, and then coming home and being at home and spending time with our families, or doing that self-care that we need to. Now, I know not everybody feels that way, but I strongly feel if you're not getting paid for it, do not let it occupy your time. The moment you clock in and you're getting paid to do your work, then do your work.
Yeah, I didn't watch that, but like I could totally relate with what he was talking about, because like when the bowling alley was going, my husband was always up there. Like he was never here. And when he'd come home, he'd be so tired and we wouldn't really like have our time, and it was frustrating, but I understood like that I had to share him, then people needed him, and so it was a lot of me understanding, and like communication is the key to any relationship. Like, so I have no problem communicating, like if I'm feeling neglected or if I'm feeling like, frustrated. And so a lot of it was like resiliency, and like, if you love somebody, you're going to support them, and that means taking up the slack, as long as like you're a team, it's a team, mentality always. But like when it comes to like my recovery and my husband's recovery, it's separate. My recovery is separate from his. He can't make me do stuff that I don't want to do, and I'm not going to do that to him, because you form that mutual respect and understanding. So, you know being married is difficult in itself, but with external things coming in, it's a lot of compromise, and you learn how to balance. And that's like, I'm a planner. I have to plan because I have anxiety disorder, and if I don't, I will shut down. Like I will start being like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and then pretty soon I'm just like, forget it, I'm not doing none of it. I refuse. I'm not doing it. I'm freaking out here. But, eventually like I'll pick it back up. But it's just a lot of being able to roll with the punches of life, because like I've had to go to 2 funerals in my family, and I had to do it by myself. My husband couldn't be there because of work, and it was hard. But I was able to find that I am stronger than I, give myself credit for. And so, yeah, like it's hard, I feel, for like older generations to communicate, because, it's harder for us to understand and bridge that gap, because they really struggled. We think we're struggling, we're not struggling at all. They went through some stuff, and it's hard because like in the native communities, mental health is like taboo. You don't talk about it. It's like a whole nother science that's finally coming to light. And like I've been dealing with my mental health for like long time, and I went through really abusive relationship, and like I got asked if I was a veteran, and I was like, no, because I exhibited all the signs of going to war. And it was just like crazy, because like I never understood that, our mental health is so fragile, and like doing this whole thing is helping me to fill in the pieces of the puzzle on how I want to help others. Because like being in the recovery community, and then like I don't know, I guess I'm just that person that people talk to. But like I'm helping like younger kids too that were cutting, and they didn't want to tell their parents, and I had to show them my scars that I understood. And after that, we just have a great relationship. And like last year we like baked cookies, so this year we're gonna do the same. I'm like just trying to be the mentor for everybody, because like I never knew that me changing my life would help others, inspire them. And so I'm just real thankful for this program.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to thank all of you guys for being able to create an environment, especially online, right? We're not necessarily in, connection with each other individually, personally, but we've been able to create an environment online for people to feel, for all of us to feel comfortable enough to share. And so it takes a lot of courage, but it also takes a lot of connection with each other. Who would have ever thunk that this Master Health Volunteer Program would have been able to address all these different aspects that we need as individuals to become effective members and effective volunteers within our community. So I'm grateful for all of you for participating, and I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you for sharing. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to look at our cool Facebook group. Me and Sandy are doing it, and we're still new at doing the face group stuff. But if you have comments, put those comments on there. If you have suggestions, share those suggestions. And let's keep our connection going. Let's keep the momentum going, because this program is going to, in a way, help our tribal communities in healing and making it through what's going on with this pandemic. Because through what we're learning, we're going to be able to model those behaviors on how to implement programs and how to connect with each other and how to move forward and make changes within our communities. So on that note, thank you guys for your time, and I will
Michelle?
Yes.
So if anybody has some more ideas about community projects, put them on the page so we can all see and add to it.
We'll start chatting on that page. All right. Thank you guys. You guys all have a good week. We'll see ya.
See ya.
See you guys. Thanks for coming.